All right. Good morning, FFA. Welcome to the kickoff call for this week. I hope everybody had an amazing extended weekend here with Martin Luther King Day yesterday. So hopefully you guys got some time with family and enjoyed this weekend. Super excited for today's call because you're going to get to hear from Willie. I don't know if you guys been checking out the agency chat or not, but Willie has just been crushing it lately. And what you may not have seen is the behind the scenes of what Willie does every single day. So many times he's calling leads, connecting with them, driving to the house. He does whatever it takes to make the sale happen. So I'm excited to have him on here in just a few minutes. But before we do that, let's give a big shout out to the top 15 of last week. You guys came out of the gate strong last week. Running 2 agents breaking 10K. So big shout out to Sylvia and Becky for crushing it like always. We got Jess and Julie always putting their name at the top of the chart. Big shout out to Beth and T Wade for having an amazing week. Another big shout out to Taylor for closing her first annuity. She saw that commission come in on that thing. So I know that was exciting. She helped her client out in just a huge fashion. So nice job to you, T Wade. Allison with a huge week like always. Big shout out to Allie working alongside of Hope. She's been crushing it here since the start of this year. So nice work to you, Allie. Jody, like always putting her name at the top of the chart. So nice work to you guys there. Jess having an amazing week. Big shout out to Kirk for dominating it last week as well. KZ, I know she's in Vegas right now, but big shout out to her for breaking the 5K threshold and just running towards the top last week. Another big shout out to Rebecca. She's been in the top 3 back-to-back weeks, if not back-to-back weeks. Ever since we started this year, she's been in the top. So nice work to her. Let's give Jennifer Garner just a huge shout out in the agency chat because I believe she broke her personal best record last week, but she had a phenomenal week going over $10,000. She's been such a consistent, hardworking agent. And I know that week was well deserved for you, Jennifer. So nice work to you. And then claiming the number 1 spot of last week, we had Dennis have a huge week, go over 10K as well. I know we had a little glitch in the numbers. There were some agents that I believe were close to 8, 9, 10K that just did not get submitted and populated. So we'll fix that for you guys, give you a shout out on tomorrow's call. But big shout out to Dennis for taking home agent of the week. Top 15, super proud of you guys for continuously putting your names at the top of the chart last week. So great work to you guys. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on Willie. If you got any questions for Willie, feel free to drop them in the chat because he is on the hot seat today. So Willie, you are live with us now, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So, hey, I
Good.
appreciate you for jumping on here, Willie. I want to give
No
you a
problem.
highlight, man, because you've been just doing phenomenal here lately. But, Willie, give everybody an intro. Who is Willie Smith? What were you doing before insurance? Just tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, short intro. For before this, I was well, I still am a full-time missionary. So I had left 25 years working in the IT business at hospital to go full-time. But then after getting married and having some kids, we decided that I needed to do something, and then therefore I stumbled across an interview, an ad, I think it was, or I got an email about applying for a job. And I said, I would just give it a shot. Didn't know what it was. It was one of those group interview deals. And it's like, you got to take a test and then go from there. And so my wife and I, we prayed about it. Took 10 days. My wife and my kids, they allowed me to get up every day for 8 hours and just lock myself in my office and just study. And then in 10 days, I took the test and passed it. And so here we are today,
That's
selling
awesome.
life insurance. Yeah, protecting
That's,
families.
that's phenomenal. Hey, shout out to your wife for letting you lock yourself away. You hear that,
Yeah.
Alicia? I need 10 days, 10 days. No, but that's phenomenal. Hey, most agents, they struggle with that pre-licensing, with that test, that whole concept. And for you to do
Yeah.
that in 10 days, it's usually a clue. If an agent does that pretty quickly, they usually do very well in this industry. So it's no surprise, you did it in 10 days and
Right.
here you are. So Willie, I love the missionary aspect. I think when I talked to you about joining FFA, that was one thing that really intrigued me was you guys had lived in China, right? For
Yeah, we lived in China for eight
how long?
months.
8 months. So tell
Yeah.
everybody about like the missionary side of what you do. What was that process like?
Um, for me, I mean, it was very natural because of how God has gifted me. So, in understanding what the Bible says, when you go somewhere, become all things to all people. And so, as I was there, I just became all things to all people. I lived the way they lived. We lived in a very rural area. I think I've said it before, but we lived in, we used outhouses, a squatty
Mhm.
potty. But as far as ministry, you had to, it was on the ground. So like usually when we went to a house or a hotel, basically it was apartment. When we went in, I had to sit in the back seat because they have cameras that scan the cars.
Mhm.
So they wouldn't see me in the car. And then when we went upstairs in the house, usually I would have to try to turn or something to try to avoid most of that kind of stuff. So they wouldn't try to figure out what we was doing. But yeah, but for the most part, it was pretty interesting. I think my most intriguing time though wasn't actually in China. It was on the Navajo reservation where I was actually attacked, and a young man actually threatened to kill me and my daughter, my oldest daughter. So
Wow.
yeah,
Well,
so that
I
was
mean,
that was
that's a testimony to you fulfilling his will for you, going through all of
yeah,
that, having your family go through all of that. And not a lot of people have that kind of strength. Most people would have packed it up and then like, all right, I'm
yeah,
done. I'm done doing
yeah,
this. But
yeah,
you
nah.
kept pushing through it. So, but that's a big shout out to you, man, about your life
Yeah,
mission. I love that. I love that when you joined up, you thought about how this business could help support you to continue to do that, give you the
yeah.
freedom to still do that. So that's awesome. But let's jump into insurance, Willie. So tell everybody, what's your approach to a lead, right? I know you're big on calling, you're big on the phones, you'll drive there, you do whatever it takes to get that policy locked in. So just give everyone an idea, like what's the day-to-day look like for you?
So for me, a day to day is kind of like all over the place, to be honest with you. I kind of like my morning starts, of course, obviously with prayer and just seeking the Lord for what's the best plan of action for the day. So then I'll look at my leads and see what I have. Usually Sunday, I know what I got, and then therefore, but also because of the leads coming in through overnight. So sometimes I don't know all my leads until the day of. So it all depends on where they are. I'll call them, or I would just go knock. But now I've implemented a plan where they have to tell me no twice before I stop. So I'm gonna call them, and they either say no on the phone, then I'm still gonna go knock on their door. Or if I go knock on their door and they tell me no, I'm gonna call them, then they have to tell me no again before it really means no. And so that has been a huge win for me. But I think the biggest difference for us is we stopped chasing, like you said, having AP breath. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we stopped chasing AP breath. My wife and I, we decided, I think it was like early December, that you know what, no matter what, we're going to give thanks to God for the yes and also for the no. And we're going to have the same enthusiasm for the no just as we does for the yes. And one of my favorite poems is, I'm no longer seeking the blessing, but I'm seeking the blesser. And so, therefore, as I seek Him, He will take care of all of our needs because He's given me that promise.
That's
So,
such
as I
a
go to people's houses, I'm not worried about the yes or the no. I'm just focusing on somebody being home, and then if they're home, getting in the door, and then just having a wonderful conversation with them. Yeah,
that's such a good mindset to have, to be thankful for the no's
yeah,
and the yeses too. And that really alleviates the pressure off of you, doesn't it?
yes,
Like, you don't get so emotional getting told no. It just makes the job so much more
yeah,
enjoyable.
yeah,
And honestly, hey, if you're a new agent listening to this, some of the times you get told no are going to be the funniest, like most memorable times,
yeah,
someone chasing you off their porch with the broomstick or whatever it is. But it's
yeah,
just funny. So, Willie, I also like not a lot of agents have that rule of two no's. Like
mhm,
most of
yeah,
them is if they get told no on the phone, they're not calling them again.
right,
If they get told in person, they're definitely not calling them again. So,
yeah.
what's been your experience with that? Have you sold policies on that second attempt?
Yes, actually, one, I think it was last week. Well, it was a sale, but then it ended up being declined because of the
Mhm.
agency. It was somebody
Yeah,
that I knocked and ended up calling, but no, I ended up calling them and said no. When I went to their house, they let me in and we talked and
hmm,
ended up writing a policy, but her health was declined. So it
gotcha.
didn't work that way.
Yeah,
But it had happened last week. Yeah, last Thursday, I went to her house, knocked on the door, and I thought she was just joking because she had a smile on her face, but she was actually angry that I came to her house without calling her. And
yeah.
I was just like kind of baffled. So I just played along with her and
Hmm.
but she was really upset. And I said, so if I go and call you, you'll be okay? You were scheduled? She said, yes. So I came home later that evening and I called her. She was still not happy. And she said, I changed my mind. I hung up. So I was like, okay. so,
That's
so I
awesome.
was like,
Now,
okay, it is what it is.
what do
Huh?
you say when you call her? Like, I know, one of the clients that I believe me and you connected on last week or the week before was a guy who you had gone through most of the information on the phone. He wanted you as his agent. He was okay paying a little bit more per month based off of what you told him, what he was getting. And so you made the haul. I think you drove an hour to his house, right?
Yes.
So, but
Mhm. Yeah.
a lot of agents struggle on that phone call. Like they don't know how to set the appointment or how to even introduce themselves. What do you tell people when you get them on the phone?
Well, for me, I do it a little bit different. I believe we've been given 2 ears for a reason. So I listen
Mhm,
more than I talk to get a feel for where they are. Usually I listen to how they answer the phone and they respond to how I say, hello, my name is Willie. So based on how they respond to that, then we'll decide which route I'm going to go with them. It's going to be either more serious approach or it's going to be a more jubilant, relaxed approach. And then I go from there and
mhm,
just start just getting some basic information. Like you said in one of the previous trainings, I assume everything. I assume that because they fill out the information, they want the information. And
mhm.
so my job is just to help remind them of that and get them that information as quick as possible.
That's awesome. That's such a good thing. I love that you go about this job utilizing all the tools.
Yeah.
It's like you've got the phone, you're gonna drive there, you're gonna do whatever it takes to
Yeah.
do that. So, well,
Hmm.
let me ask you this. What have you found to be the most difficult thing for you as an agent, right? A lot of times on these calls, we talk about all the highlights, but I
Hmm.
know so many agents want to know, like, is Willie just perfect or does he ever struggle with anything? So what do you think would be like the most difficult aspect for you as an agent to overcome?
For me, in the beginning, it was more so about buying the leads because
Mhm,
being that we're missionaries, when we came back to America, I think we had maybe $3,000 to our name. And I did Uber for a little bit,
mhm,
and we never raised support. So therefore, people just would donate to our ministry. And so every month, God always provided for us until I started working. He still provides. And so for me, the biggest struggle was just investing in leads because you hear the numbers, you get this many leads, you're going to get this many sales. Well, that didn't happen. And it was like, well, how can I continue to do this if I'm not making money and I'm
mhm.
spending money? And so we had to start dipping into credit cards. And it was just like, and it's just like, I don't know about this. But my wife was like, we gotta just keep hanging in there. Let's just keep pushing. Let's keep pushing. I was like, yeah, I was like, but maybe I can just go and drive Uber for a little while just so we can. And she's like, no, we're gonna do it. We gotta go all in.
Mhm.
And then eventually it just started happening. I mean, I still get tons of no's, but I
Yeah.
don't worry about it no more. So I think for me that was the biggest obstacle was just getting over the fact of purchasing leads.
Mhm.
The first company I started with, they provided you with leads. It
Yeah.
wasn't that they were high quality leads, but they were just still provided. So
Mhm.
when I started having to purchase it, it was just like, man, I'm putting out a lot of money. But now that we're starting to get it back, so now when we purchase leads, it's just go ahead and just when that first one that we purchase, whatever first one that gets to sell, just go ahead and pay it off and then make more purchase like you've been talking as well.
Yeah. That's the key. You know, I think I love that you mentioned that, right? Because I think that's a concept that most agents struggle with, is the concept of taking the money you have, putting it in there, and then expecting to get it back at some point in time. And it's that initial like, oh, I don't want to give it away. Especially if you've come from a place where, like we did, you know, when we started in this business, I think we had negative money in our account. You know, I think we were like negative $200 in our checking account. And so you're like, when you start making money, you just want to hold on to it. You know, you want you don't want to give it away. But guys, money is only as good as what it's used for. You know, I think of money like when I was doing construction, Willie, I had my construction trailer. And inside that trailer, I would have a bunch of nails, you know, siding nails, window nails, whatever. But if they were sitting in the trailer, they weren't doing anything. You know, they weren't making me any money. The minute I started using them, it cost me money to use them, but I put in a window. Well, then I'd get paid for that window. Then I'd buy more nails. And so money's the same way. I think we over idolize money. Yeah. And I think sometimes God's looking down at us, just kind of laughing like, man, I got you. Just spend it, you know, like you're going to get it. I'm going to give it back, you know? So let's talk about that. Will. One thing, you know, I know your faith is like the root of everything you do. It's the same for us. How do you trust God with your finances? Right? Like that's something you did as a missionary. You talk about people donating, you talk about investing in leads. Now for the agent that's struggling financially, how do they just let go of that and trust him with it?
I mean, I think for me, that's a hard answer to generalize for everybody because of the fact, because of what God has done in my life. So for me, it is I have been crucified with Christ, and yet I live. It's not I, it's Christ who lives in me. So I understand that everything that we have is not ours. It's only temporary. So for us, and my wife is extremely good with money, extremely. I'm so thankful for her. So she makes sure she keeps it in track, and you know, we give it away just as well though. So because we know what the Bible says about giving, so we give it away as well. So we think more of others than we think of ourselves. So for me, that's the way we go about it. Yeah.
That's such a good mindset to have with it. And when you're like that, it's funny how more comes to you, you know, but when you're trying to control it and you know, you're not putting it first, you're treating it like it's yours. It's hard to make any of it, but the minute that you just kind of let go of it, things start working themselves out. So
this is our first month since we've been back from China to where we're coming up on rent and car that we're not even having to even think about it.
That's awesome.
Like, this is our first month. We just like, wow, we already have payment or stuff in our account. Yeah. So we're very thankful to God for allowing us to see that happen.
I love that, man. I love hearing that too, because I know, you know, you're relatively new, you know, here at FA. I know you've been with a different company and stuff before too, but here I remember talking to you about how it's just, you know, like you got to do like 4 to 6 weeks of just grinding work, and then you start kind of getting ahead. You start seeing the commissions come in, and then you know, it's like getting a train going, you know. But I love that this is the first month that you guys are just no pressure there, right? That's awesome. So let's talk about connecting with the client, Willie, because I know like when you're on the phone and you're connecting with them that way, but you're also connecting with them in person, just doing your call to closes. I know you're connected with them, right? Like every time you tell me about what they have going on, I know that you would only know that if they trusted you enough to tell you all of that stuff. So what are some tips you have for an agent who struggles like connecting and getting information out and relating to clients? How are you able to do that?
I think for me, like I say, it's just because the nature of life for me. I grew up as a person who had all older people in my family. I'm the youngest, and I always felt easy to relate to older people because I felt like they have a lot more wisdom and a lot more life to share. And I know that when we go in these people's homes, really they just want somebody to talk to. And so I don't rush into anything. I enjoy listening to their life about their kids, their grandkids, whatever's on their walls, talk about that. I call it just breaking the ice, just really listening to them tell their life, and let them say, oh, you know what, enough about me. Let's talk about what you came here for. Oh, no, it's no problem. It's all good. And then we kind of dive in. But then I'll segue off for a little while and then come back to it. Just giving them that comfort that I'm truly there to help them, and not worry so much about myself, and to just be an ear to them and listen to them talk.
That's
So
such a
that for me
good
is the best way of connecting, because everybody wants to tell their story.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like you said earlier, you've got 2 ears to listen. You listen on the phone, you're listening in the house. I do my presentation the same way. I think a lot of agents that have shadowed me or rode with me, like maybe were a little disappointed because they thought that I said something that they didn't say, but really all I did was I just sat down, I just let the client talk, and you just kind of move through. But one thing you said there that's key too is you connect, then you get to business, but then you also go back to small talk, like throughout. That's such an important tip, guys. If you're an agent on the call and you sit down and you're just like for 30 minutes straight, going straight through the presentation and straight through business, you're not going to do good. You got to just relax, let them chit chat. I think if you have a good enough connection, now I'm not encouraging you guys not to follow the presentation, but if you have a good enough connection, you don't even need that. You can just talk to people like normal, and they'll tell you what they have going on. So I love that. Willie, let's talk about leads a little bit, right? Okay. So I know you talked about that was a struggle for you, initially purchasing them, getting that ball rolling, but do you approach every lead the same way? Do you say things differently, or what is that? How do you go about that?
So again, I do it by feel. More so, I know what I want to say, but I feel the person out, and then I interject it as we're talking. Like the one that I'm going to go see today, when I called her, she was just very jubilant and I started off very jubilant with her and just laughed and talked. And when I called them, I assumed they already know me. And I'm like, you remember me? I'm like, no. I was like, I'm Willie. And then so next thing you know, we're just laughing, we're talking, because especially like people like right now, recently we had a shooting in Stone Mountain. So everybody you call knew about that. So that's my right into the conversation. And now the guards are down, and now we can start talking. So I just look for ways to bring the guard down and then just have a conversation.
That's gold, Willie. I don't know if you're just naturally good at that, right? But that's actually a technique I try to teach people is relating to them, right? Like when you're approaching a lead at the door, you have like a 3-strike rule. And the first strike is when you say your name, they're like, I don't know you, right? So that's strike 1 against you. You get 3 strikes, you're not getting in the door, you're not talking to them on the phone. But then the second thing, if you say is, like you relate to them about a recent event in your community, they know their community, they know that event, that's a positive strike. So now you're even. You only need 1 more good strike to get in the door. And that could be something as simple as saying, hey, I live right over in so-and-so county. They know the county, you're good, you get in. So that's a great technique there. So Willie, to wrap up the call, I got 2 more questions for you, right? The last one's going to be a hard one. I'm going to put some pressure on you, but this one, what's your goal for 2025? You and your wife, your kids, what are you guys wanting to achieve this year?
So I guess to put it in a very simple way, we rent right now. So the house that we live in was actually a friend of mine, and it's he allowed us to stay here, but it's not what we want. But it was just somewhere God placed us to be here for a temporary season. So I want to be able to put us into a better home. So hopefully by next month, we'll be able to have a better home. We will have a better home. And also to be able to host more events, because we love having people come over, cooking dinner for them, having Bible studies and things like that. So our goal is to be able to just be free and to enjoy people that way.
That's awesome, man. That's an awesome goal to have, running towards that house. I know we did the same thing we rented a house for 3 or 4 years when we started in this business. And, it was just, we just kind of sacrificed that time and to save up to try to get the dream house. And finally we're able to do it. So love that goal,
That's
man.
the goal for 2026 is to have make enough money this year to be able to apply for a loan to get our own home and then also be able to take a trip back to China. So
thank you. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. You're going to achieve that goal for sure. So last question for you, Willie. This is going to be a tough one, but this is one I think that we've got the platform to talk about it. So we might as well encourage somebody in the process, right? So for the person that struggles with their faith in terms of, will they believe in Jesus? Will they not believe in it? Maybe they've never grown up in that. Maybe they've only ever viewed religion like it's a set of rules. He's the boss and they don't like that. What could somebody do to have 2025 be the year that they're actually the closest to Christ that they've ever been? What would a tip be? I know you've taught this before, but what's a tip you have for somebody to come to him?
I think, so the simplest way that I put it is it's learning to rest. Because see, a lot of times we think that we got to work to get close to God. And we think that we got to do this, we got to do that. We think of a works mentality. It's like anything in life, we think we got to work hard to get it, which is true. But when it comes to a relationship with God, it is actually resting in the finished work of what Jesus has done for us. When we can get to that point, I think then we can truly enjoy the relationship. I preached on Sunday about prayer in Matthew, and Jesus was talking about when you pray like this. But before that, he's talked about going into your inner room, and then God who sees in secret will reward you in secret. And I was explaining to them that if you think the reward is about you getting what you prayed for, you've missed it. The reward is God himself. And that's what Jesus has done for us. He has removed all barriers and allowed God to reveal himself to us so that we can be back in that right relationship with him through his son, Jesus Christ, and learn to live resting even in the midst of a storm.
That's amazing, man. What a good tip. I think I'm going to encourage people to rewatch this over and over because that's so true. A lot of people don't ever come close to him because they view it like work. And that's not what you don't have to do anything to earn it. You've already got the gift. Right. And so, and I got to remind myself of that sometimes. I know we all do. So, but that's awesome, Willie. I appreciate you sharing that tip. And hey, hats off to you for just having an amazing first couple of months here at FFA, and can't wait to see you get that dream house that y'all are running for in 2026. So appreciate you.
I was disappointed today that I wasn't in the top 10. So I'll be back.
There you go. Willie's going to be at the top of the chart this upcoming week for sure. So nice work to you, Willie. Appreciate you for jumping on here, man, and sharing the tips. Guys, that's all we got for you today. It's Tuesday. I know this week we've been, off with the calls for yesterday, so we're going to have another call tomorrow, and then we will have one on Friday. But let's go dominate this week, and we will be back here tomorrow morning. Thanks again, guys. Thanks, Willie.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.